Good evening, Markus.
Good evening, Alina.
And welcome to a new year and the last stop in our journey, um, which is through the water element, because we had a wonderful journey through seasons and Chinese wisdom, the five elements, and how they actually help when we want to. Um, Understand better how to address the person we have in front, as we all, are a mixture of all five elements, but some of us have, some of them more dominant than others. And I was reflecting because reflection is the key word, I guess, at the beginning of the year. And I don't want to unveil anything or go too fast, but reflection is a good partner for the water element. And without ado, we're going to jump into the winter and the water element. And Marcus, where do we start?
First of all, thank you very much, Alina, for organizing the last event as well. So thank you for the series. Thank you for being with you and the team here and having the opportunity maybe to introduce really something new, which we are not so aware of. And as you have said, yes, I think you have mentioned already the seasons. And the seasons, the good thing about the seasons is they're never stopping. So it's a continuous flow, it's a rhythm. It's going, it's coming, it's going, it's coming. And so I think it's a universal approach, which we can use. And
A
it's something that we
constant,
see.
right?
Hmm?
It's a constant. It's a constant. It's
It's a
a change
constant
and
shift.
it's a constant in the same
Exactly. So if you're working with entrepreneurs or organizations, large corporations, sometimes there's a saying, nothing is so constant as a change, and that's true. We see it. Yeah. We see it every year. We see it every day. We see it every month. So, and the good thing is that what we are seeing in the outside, which is called the macrocosm, we are seeing inside of us, And when we are talking about coaching, yeah, we are seeing a rhythm as well, because you have a client, maybe you're starting a client relationship, you're going through a process and you're ending a process. Maybe it takes 3 or 4 sessions, maybe it takes 5 sessions, maybe it takes 5 weeks, 5 months, or even a longer period, but you start and you are working and you're ending. And even if you're going into a session, you can say something like that. Or if you're thinking about the reflection at the end of a session, of a coaching or mentoring session. So what we are doing as a coach or a mentor, we are also starting to initiate the reflection of the current mentoring or coaching session, maybe after 40 minutes, 45 minutes, to start to see what the person has been learning. And that's exactly what's happening in the winter months, that we are going back, that we reflect what has been done. And we have been doing that a little bit already in the autumn period. And then going deeper inside, and taking this over and see what has been happening in the session, what we have been learning, what has been useful, what we want to integrate into our approach. So, and that's exactly, where we want to start today, to go a little bit deeper and also to help the people to get the full picture again a little bit. So to reflect on what we have been doing in 2022 in the previous sessions, and then to go a little bit deeper into the winter and what we can learn maybe from it.
And what I love about this approach is that it invites the experience and the wisdom of each of us in connecting with nature, because it is not fully mental. It is not something that is learned, but it is something that we can connect with our own observation, our own experience, human experiences. And when we say winter, and you said all of those things, I was just thinking that there are many seeds
Mm.
in the ground right now, and this is the physical ground. And at the moment, it seems like everything is dead, but actually, it's not. And I'm referring to the area where we live, which is continental, because obviously we have now parts of the earth where there's only one season, right? So when we refer here where we have the winter season, and they're germinating. So we don't see them, but they're germinating. And actually, um, there is a process of germination that happen in the winter when we have less sunlight. Maybe we feel inclined to sleep more. It's like a time of processing everything that we accumulated in terms of learning and experience, and everything kind of gets sorted out. And it is valuable. I mean, there's always this approach where you can fight it or you can flow with it and allow it. And I think this is the secret, to allow yourself to germinate, to hibernate, to slow down. And actually this year I saw much more conversation about, instead of resolution, about the intention and about slowing down. Many people said, why is it that every January we need to start and go and go? Not to mention yin energy, but maybe we will. That actually January is very much a very yin energy, a energy that goes within. And yeah, I'm very curious how this everything come together for the water profile, because obviously we talked about the other ones. And I'm going to put now the slides because, as usual, as you have get us accustomed, we always have these beautiful slides that walk us through it. And I think you're the one that you're going to press the button to go to move through slides. I have a feeling. And yeah, let's just see, because I think you wanted to look back, right? Because it's winter and it's water, to our
Yeah,
journey.
exactly. So I'm happy to go through the presentation, but maybe we also have a kind of discussion, and maybe we're jumping just over some of the slides. And you just mentioned a very important topic, So if there's someone in the winter months, and you have mentioned, okay, how can we accommodate with that one? There are people who love the winter, and there are people like the fire people who don't like it. So the fire people also need to think about what they are doing in winter. So if they don't like it, if they are freezing, they need to think how to accommodate to the winter, to the reflection period. Yeah, they maybe like more the parties, going out, having friends, being, yeah, it's a pool. So they need to think, okay, how they can accommodate with the winter in terms also of the clothes. Maybe they don't need really big ones, or because they already have a lot of fire inside. And the winter person, if the winter is coming on top, a winter person is really sometimes already a person who is freezing very quickly. And now, if you think about the winter is coming, he may like the winter, yeah, but winter and cold, it's getting really that he really needs a lot of clothes, maybe 3 pairs of socks and 5 pullovers. So it's always, and we are thinking about, okay, when we are taking it as a metaphor, and we try to identify what maybe it's in the other person, you immediately get an idea about that person, maybe what they need, what they need in terms of to cover themselves, but also from the other person in front of you, just to feel a little bit more balanced and not to be too much on one of the sides. So, okay. So let us go a little bit through the slides so that the team is able to follow what we are talking.
Well, let's see, indeed. And
Exactly. So I
so
think
where
you
do
have
we start our journey?
and I think that if you have mentioned to the team already outside that they can send you a message, that we are here also to answer their questions, or?
Or comments? Yes, I see Camelia is with us. So good evening, bună seara. And to anyone who has a comment or a question, they are mostly welcome. As usual, please write it down in the comment section, whether it's in LinkedIn or in Facebook, and we will be more than happy to take them along.
Exactly. Yeah. So thank you, Alina. Yeah. So the last 3 sessions we had in 2022 was really more covering the spring, summer, and autumn period, where we said, okay, we were going through with the flow. We started, I think, in April or late May. which is called the wood element, which is where we are saying, okay, everything would like to start to grow, it's unstoppable. Then we were getting into the fire and earth element, which is represented by the early summer and late summer, where someone is really showing what is inside, because he's blooming, and we see what's happening. Then we are getting into the autumn where we said, okay, what has been happening through the year? We were harvesting all the experiences. And now in the winter months, it's a period where we need to think, how can we survive in this time of, and how can we integrate what we have been learning over the last year? So that was the reason also to take here the January, which is really in the middle of the winter. And to say, okay, what do we expect, and soon we are starting again with the wood element and getting into the spring. So that was a flow. And the framework we are following, which you can see in a lot of natural processes and projects, Good. So the question really is what have we explored, and if you allow, I put together a couple of slides just to see, okay, what we have been covering, So if this is okay for you and the team here, So we said really in the beginning. So there's one famous person, it's Lao Tzu, and he said, okay, he who knows others is wise, and he who knows himself is enlightened. So it was really what we wanted to present here, is to get the team an experience to reflect from a natural process what is happening inside themselves, to just give them a little bit more insights, to learn something new, to look at your own behavior or at your own perceptions, at how you see other people and the relationships in a different facet, So it was really to give the team here in the spring new ideas about what the wood element is about, how the 5 elements are working, what the rhythm is, and what the energies are, And soon we were then getting into the fire months and into the earth period, and saying, okay, if you have something which has been just growing, giving birth, you have a small baby, then the fire period, if you transfer that into your own life, the fire period is seen as where you are growing, where you are becoming an adult, where you're going to school, where you're finding your way, where you have a red face if you see the other sex, so a man sees a female or the other way around. So it's really the time where you are starting to communicate a lot, to get in contact with the other people. And in the earth period, it's more or less where you're starting to really live your life, where you're maybe getting into a job, where you're building a family, where you're getting children. So it's really the normal process from an earth perspective, which is related to the summer. And please jump in if you have any
comments. Yeah, I
getting
was
into your
thinking.
head, Alina, what we have discussed, So in the
Yeah, I
last.
was thinking maybe to make the relationship with the seasons, that of course, and the months. So I would say you start with wood, starting from March or February. Where do you start?
So normally we are starting in February with the spring period, when you're looking into that from a Chinese perspective,
Mm-hmm.
So it's normally covering the February, March, April timeframe. Then you're getting into June, July, August.
Is the fire?
So you cannot split it into the 5 elements completely, because otherwise we were getting into 15 months. We have only 12, so it's always a time in between. Also, so it's not full the 3 months when you're taking the 5 phases as the concept, But this is how this is working, So fire and earth is more the summer period. Metal is the autumn. I'm getting to the autumn period here, which is then really where it's getting colder, where you're getting into the. Now I'm using the term we were talking about yang in the first half of the year, when everything is growing, it's going up. And if you have the turning point, yeah, at 12 o'clock also, yeah, you have it daily at 12 o'clock where you're getting then into the yin phase, where energy is reduced, where you're already getting into the afternoon or into the evening period, where you're getting a little bit more quiet, you're getting home, sitting, and then going into sleep to rest, and to uh, rebuild your power, So you have this also from a daily perspective, this kind of process here. Yeah, and what we
Right.
have been. Hmm?
And what I wanted to maybe add is that if you, because you were using the metaphor of a life, right? So you go and you are in adulthood in the summer, but you also have this dimension with the metal where if you reach into your 30s or your 40s, you get more in connection with your own feelings. You know who you are, but you also may be experiencing more loss because some of the members are leaving you, as it is a part of life, parents maybe, or things like that. So you experience sadness in different ways, much more than when you were at the beginning and full of energy, and there were maybe less responsibilities, and but also less attachments. And now there's more emotions and there's more vulnerability. And I think this is what metal brings, right? So it isn't necessarily that you are getting it the autumn, but somehow the metal can be there as a component a little bit sometimes, either over summer or um, if we don't look strictly um, at a split, in days or in period. It goes with autumn, obviously, and we know that in autumn we feel a bit more melancholic,
Hmm.
and maybe there's a little bit more emotions, when you see the leaves growing and you say goodbye to certain things. And yeah, that's kind of what it brought to me, the metal.
Um, exactly. And what I'm observing is that most of the cultures, yeah, that we are not taking enough time really to reflect here, yeah, and what is happening in the metal phase, where you're really saying, okay, what has been going well, and that you are very thankful to that one, yeah. So I think I mentioned the story when we had an au pair here from the US, or we had a couple of au pairs over the last 10 years. But once we had one from the US, and then we were really starting to celebrate Thanksgiving, which is really saying thank you also to the nature, what has been done, because we expect that this is natural, but there could be happen so many things, that it's maybe not going well during the year, So what I'm always doing is, even if you may had a worst experience, your job has been not good, or something didn't went well during the day, it is important in the afternoon, in the evening, at the end of a project, when you run a project, really to reflect and say what has been good, yeah, and to say thank you to that one, yeah. It will come. So, and that's the reason why people, what you are saying, is that they are vulnerable, because then they are getting sad, because maybe good things are also going away. Yeah, you need to let go some things, And the word grow also stands for the word get rid of waste. Yeah. So on the other hand, you're also saying, what was not so good, what you don't want to take over. Yeah, maybe if you're looking for a new partner and into the new relationship, you are maybe saying, I don't want to have this kind of behavior again. So you need to be really clear. You need to reflect. It's like a lawyer, or yeah, that you're saying, okay, I'm now speaking for myself, which is good, which is not good. Yeah, and to manage that appropriately. So it's really worthwhile, and that's something what we are really doing. Not what I'm seeing sometimes, that we are not doing that with the spirit, and with the time we should really take in order to reflect what has been good, because this is starting to give you the opportunity to think what you would like to take over, what you want to get rid of. And then I'm always referring it to your inner diamond, So your inner diamond can also grow and become more shiny if you really say, okay, what needs to get rid of? Yeah.
Make space. I think I like your definition of grow, because in the coach language, grow stands for a very um, loved or famous or utilized coaching model,
Yeah.
and now get rid of waste. It is make me think of making space so something new can come into your life, because in order to start to have a new experience, to have new people, to have new learning,
Mm.
space needs to be created, otherwise the glass is full
Exactly.
and it's not integrated. So actually this is how I can kind of how you make space. So I'm really curious what water brings us.
You're curious, yeah?
I am curious.
Okay. So I think maybe everybody who is listening today, yeah, we have been now in normally with starting into the new year in 2023, people are sitting there and saying, okay, what has been maybe good or not, or at least most of them are starting with new goals or objectives already, yeah, And what I
Or
remind my
intentions.
yeah, and intentions or whatever, yeah. And what I'm reminding all of my coaches and mentees is, did you take really time which has been good or not? So if you are just in a coaching process, maybe helping someone to get into the next level, to the next step, sometimes it's really good to see, okay, what has been happening before, which you can, and we are talking about the winter now, how you can integrate that one, in order to get really to the next level. So um, maybe take yourself a little bit time after the session or during the next couple of days just to reflect again a little bit, yeah. um, so to be good prepared what how you would like to move forward. And I can tell you, the Chinese New Year hasn't been starting.
No,
So the
it's
good
in the
thing is
weekend,
really
I
that it
understood.
starts on Sunday. So
Yes,
you have still 5 more days to go and to reflect, before you're getting a second chance to jump into the next year.
which is a rabbit year and a water year. Very interesting.
Yeah, a water rabbit. So we have a combination of water and wood. Yeah, but we are getting to that a little bit later. So basically, when you're thinking back to water, yeah, and when you may refer it, yeah, it's really the source of the life. Yeah. So without water, I think we all cannot exist. Yeah, our body is existing out of 98% or 97% out of water. And what you should do, maybe in the morning when you're getting up, yeah. So sometimes I'm telling my clients they should drink a glass of yin yang water. Are you curious what it is?
A balanced water.
Yeah, very good. So it's not just, yeah. So the stomach normally, yeah, it's warm, so it likes warm water, But a yin yang water is really where you have on the one hand cold water, and that you are brewing up another hot water, and then you're pouring together cold water and hot water. So that's yin yang water, because you're taking yin, the cold water, and the warm water, and you're getting a yin yang water. Don't take just water which has a nice temperature, because then it's not really a yin yang water. Um,
I
yeah, and,
totally.
and the water, in terms of the source of life, it's really that you need to get into silence, that it's a time where you have the inner reflection, that you think about what is really the essence. Yeah. Um, and if you also think about the water, what's happening with water, maybe, Alina? Any ideas?
Well, it depends. I mean, water transforms. Water seems to go very
Yeah, but
slow. It can be very slow, but it can be such a powerful, because it can make its way. It always. I love mountains, and then when you go and you see the gorge in the mountains, that is the power of the water, and it was created through years of patiently just flowing, and whatever seems like, and it can also, you see those signs, and it's summer, and then it's a low level of water, and then you have this sign with, okay, maybe not, don't stop here, because in case of rain it can come. And so then it makes you realize that it can also be very powerful and strong, and it can be destructive, it can be constructive and destructive. And of course it can transform because it can flow, right? So it's a liquid. It can go into steam, so we have the mist, and so the evaporation process, and so it goes into a gas stage. But it can also froze, and then it becomes the ice. So it can, from the mist, it can turn into um, snow, or it can bring us, what is it, the pieces of the ice, I forgot the name.
Mm.
And it takes so many shapes, actually. And most of all, if we do not have water, so if we do not hydrate, yeah, I think hydration and sleep are the most essential nourishment aspects for our body to exist. They are
Mm.
essential more than food.
Yeah, I totally agree. So I think all of what you have just said was wonderful. Yeah, it's very good reflecting all of what the water is. There's only one thing I may want to add. It's really that water has the, if you're looking from an energy perspective, and I think you mentioned it already, yeah, that water is flowing down. When it's raining, it's falling down. If you have the mountain where water is then getting into a small river, or maybe getting into the ocean. So it always has a tendency to go down. So that is a typical energy of the water. And if you may have a water child, you can see that you have a person, yeah, or maybe a boy or a girl, which is always laying flat on the bed or on the couch. That is a person reading a lot, taking time for themselves, and not really moving. Yeah. And so one of our sons is a very typical one, because when he's coming home, he's getting on his bed, he's taking a book or just listening to music. So really taking a rest, taking the time. And this is what water is doing. Water is trying to find the way downside, or yeah. So this is when you have a child, maybe you can observe that a little bit, yeah. If you have a client who is not sitting in front of you like me now, yeah, but it's maybe flowing a little bit in the chair, you can already imagine that this is a more water person.
The more you talk about it, the more you describe my oldest son, especially with the sitting on a chair, and then comes the fire mom and says, "Come on, sit straight up." So, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So even if the children, and now I'm making it already a little bit more complex, just to, because it's the last session, you are all of them are, or all of our listeners are already a little bit um, experienced here. So normally, if you have a child, even if it's between 12 or 16, 18 or whatever, they are normally in their fire phase. But we are not only fire. So basically they are in a period where there is a fire. But you can have, yeah, from a personality, you can be a wood, or you can be a fire, you can be an earth, you can be a metal, or you may have more traits of a water person. So you will find each type of children, which are maybe in a specific situation because of the age, but individually they are showing a different behavior. And the water, and for example, just to make it easier to understand, if you have then a wood person, yeah, that person is coming home, grabbing some food and going for basketball or whatever, yeah, running, being outside, not being at home. And if you have maybe a fire person, maybe that person is taking out the mobile phone, just said goodbye to the neighbor, and then having a 2 hours phone discussion with the neighbor, because they are talking and talking and talking. So you can see already a little bit of these kind of, yeah, phases in your children as well, or in other people. So that's how we are all a little bit different. We have all of the phases inside us, but some of the personality traits are more strongly available, some are a little bit more hidden. Yeah. So you can see, okay, what kind of person it is. And if you think, okay, yourself, who you are, you know exactly, okay, is that going maybe well? Does this fit to each other? Or maybe you even have a good understanding, okay, how you can influence that kind of person or your children. Okay, so power of water. So basically, and this is something if you have then a water person, yeah. And now think about your elder son. They normally are very strong in terms of they have a willpower. They know exactly what they want. They're going forward. It never stops. So water has a tendency to always flow. It don't like to be stopped by the earth. So you're living in the Netherlands, yeah. But you see that it is coming and going. And if you think about that water is going down a mountain, trying to find its way, it's always moving in terms of thinking. Yeah. And these are the persons normally who are very analytical as well. They want to know under all of it. They needs to understand everything. And these are the people who are asking you questions and questions and questions and questions and questions because they really want to go to the truth and they want to find the wisdom. So they are very strong in terms of getting to their objective. Yeah. But sometimes, if you now see here the iceberg, they may not show exactly what is going on inside. Yeah. So they are normally good observers, they are good listeners, but they are not telling you exactly what they are thinking. So they are also maybe the persons who are not able to show you exactly how happy they are. Maybe if you have been giving them a present, they are taking the present and making it or open it at home on their own. And then they are saying, oh, yeah, very nice. But they don't want to express their feelings with the other people. So that's totally different to a fire person, yeah, who is very happy, yeah, where you can see the joy. But these people have more an inner joy, to be honest. Yeah. Is this somehow resonating?
Yeah, so indeed, I think I was thinking with calm waters run deep or something. There is a saying as well. Indeed, that water is usually peaceful. I think it is involved in meditation. It gives. It doesn't bring a sense of a lot of movement, but rather of stillness. And I
Uh,
think it is also a bit of a stillness or a neutrality in emotions as well. It's not that they don't feel, but it is in how it's shown and it's displayed. And this relationship with the outside, there is a lot of richness within.
exactly.
And this, I think a person who has a lot of water as an element, they can very well live by themselves. Of course they need some connections, but they have a richness and an universe, and I think they can be very creative, a lot of imagination. And it is, I think it is a challenge to help them ground many times because they like to flow, right? So they're very fluid. And yes, they have the willpower, but sometimes it might be that it is difficult to make decisions, for instance, on occasion.
Hmm,
Yeah, it
I,
is.
yeah, yeah, yes. I think they are the people who can, as you said, they are going really deep. Yeah, no. So normally we would say that these are philosophers or scientists. And now imagine if you have a skyscraper, where would you expect the scientists or the philosophers to sit?
With a skyscraper,
Yeah, you have a
with
skyscraper.
the head in the
Where would you search for these scientists? Where would you go?
in the library.
Downstairs, or
Up, I think they want to
no?
always.
No. You would. I
No.
think you would always go downstairs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, think about an IT person. Yeah, they are working on their own. They don't need other people, they are just doing their work. They are very good in solving complex problems, yeah, because they are getting all the information. They are able to get this analytical skill, um, to bring together different information. Yeah, and sometimes they say, "Oh yes, that's what we can try," So, or what maybe how a problem can be solved. So if you're observing them in a meeting, and I have been working in in the IT or technology sector a long time. So for sure you're finding all kind of people, but a tendency of an IT person is more to be quiet in a meeting and, yeah, not to say a lot. But
To
if
listen and observe.
they listen, they are observing, and you really need to ask them sometimes and to motivate them. Yeah. So what these people need is a little bit of help. Yeah. To express what their results of their thinking is. So sometimes we think, oh, is this a boring person? This person is not saying anything. Yeah. Which is basically not good. Yeah, if you are a team. But on the other hand, if you are a leader, if you're a team leader, if you are a manager, you need to be careful about these people as well, yeah, and to take them into the team, to ask questions and to motivate them really, to give you some kind of feedback or what they are thinking.
Yeah, it is. I think it is good to be aware that there needs more time for an opinion to be expressed, and they do need to be feel safe.
Mm,
And that is patience. I think it's the best strategy. Patience and encouragement, and silence. I think in a conversation, silence is one of the best friends,
mm,
because in a silence, a water person will have the space to um, think, but also to feel it.
mm,
So that's why for our coaches and mentors that are here, and they kind of identify what are people or what are personalities, silence and patience, I would say.
yeah.
It can be challenging for a fire person, or
Well, definitely, I think they are like, yeah, you're totally right. I wanted to say something else, so maybe just because we are talking here in metaphors or in pictures. So basically, within the water, you normally have a fish. Have you ever tried to catch a fish with your fingers?
yeah, they're very slippery.
So, and maybe you have a water person, and it's maybe difficult to get them really nailed down, because they have such a lot of ideas. Yeah, they are good in argumentation, I believe, because they know a lot of things. Yeah, and if I just think about my son, one of our sons, and if you try to fix him really to a concrete action, um, yeah, to do something, he's away. You're not getting him, yeah, into your hands. Sometimes it's crazy. Yeah, try to. So if you take that metaphor or picture maybe with you, the water, and that it's slippery, even an ice block, if you're trying to catch an ice, yeah, it's
That
sometimes
was that's the thing that made me say about the decision. So in order to pin them down, to hear sometimes, to make a choice or things like that, that's a bit more difficult, because they are slippery, and because they like to take their time to make decisions. They don't like to be pressure, and we're talking about people that have mostly water, and they want to have it in their own time, in their own space. And again, patience, anticipate, clarity sometimes, boundaries. I think it's quite important when dealing with a water person, because they can be very flowy, and sometimes they can seem wishy-washy, which also makes you think about the water, but good boundaries help them and help the communication and the relationship.
That's wonderful. And now you're getting to the point where we are saying, okay, are these 5 phases which we have discussed, is this individualized, or can we use it to look at the system? And I believe what you have just said, we can exactly look at the system. Yeah, because what you have just described, to give water a kind of where it should flow, this is exactly the earth element. Yeah, the earth, if you think about a canal, yeah, you're saying, okay, this water needs to go straight, yeah, from North Sea to the East Sea or whatever. Or you have what you have said, Staudamm. I missed the word, where you're building, where you're stopping the water. It's also sometimes to give them a little bit of boundary. Or think about the Netherlands and the islands. Yeah, you have how do you call it? Dunes? Dune?
Yes, dunes, yes. And
Yeah. So
polders. Yeah, we have polders and dunes, yes.
yeah, so you have it really to say, okay, water until here, now stop. Otherwise, I'm not able to grow here something. So and now you're
It
getting
needs
really
to
how
be contained, I think. Yeah.
exactly. So now you're getting really into, if you have understood, okay, what the energy of these 5 elements are, or 5 phases, how they are typically expressed. And if you have identified maybe the team, or where you're from a project perspective, now you need to think, okay, how if there's an imbalance, how you can balance it. What kind of element do you need? And then if you know, okay, this kind of elements, and you know exactly, okay, maybe how you need to behave. And now what you need to tell a water person. Now, if just making further examples, so sometimes um, you need also, if you have a client, maybe, yeah, he's getting 2,000 points, he's not stopping, he's always bringing new points up. Yeah, a earth person is repeating and repeating and repeating always, oh, it's shit, and what happens here, yeah, it's not good, and turning in circles. So the water is also a little bit fluid or flowing, yeah, and telling you a lot of things, but this is going straight forward because he's thinking about thousands of things. So you also need, maybe that is kind of a challenge in a coaching conversation or mentoring discussion, that you sometimes have a person where you say, okay, I need to stop that person now somehow a little bit. Yeah. Otherwise he's telling me 60 minutes. Okay, maybe it's good for him, but if you want to have a kind of result, you need to give him a little bit of structure. Yeah. So you may need to take out of your behaviors and your potentials, a different behavior, just to guide that person a little bit through the coaching conversation. Yeah.
I am curious if you usually gave us a sort of a visual of the. So if I am to look for bit of features, physical features for the water type, or do you have an image? Because last time I remember distinctly, for metal, there was a very well dressed lady, and she looked a little bit more firm and rigid in the appearance. And I'm curious how a water person would look like in an image.
Okay, so maybe two. Just recap a little bit what we have just said. So typical water aspects, yeah, as we said, okay, neuroscience means really that there's a lot of brain work involved. Yeah, looking into knowledge and into the wisdom, so that to have the data, facts, information which they are doing. So a lot of doctors and maybe scientists and researchers are there. And what is typically in terms of the emotions, it's just to say, okay, maybe they are feeling out, because they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, because they are going so deep, 10,000 meters down into the ocean. There's no light. Yeah, going downstairs to find some more news and don't miss anything out. So the water element, yeah, is related a little bit to the emotion of fear. What we have already said, people or water people are very good listener. And if you're looking at a person, normally they may have even big ears, which is a very typical one, which is one of the typical signs. And I have here a water person. Yeah, you have blue eyes. Um,
Oh, you're
you,
talking about colors now because we were just saying before we started that we look for colors associated with water and these elements. And we were like, that's why I'm dressed in blue and you're dressed in dark
yes, a little bit blue. Yes.
blue, and I'm dressed in black, not in blue. I'm dressed in black. And then I said, yes, but usually I associate with water a little bit of blue. And then that's why this I said, what color should I wear for our conversation today? And then you have the black or the dark blue and the blue. And you triggered me when you said that this person has blue eyes.
Yeah, it's so typical. So it doesn't mean that we do have a water person who has maybe brown eyes, or whatever, but it could be, yeah. Um, but what is typically is sometimes is bushy eyebrows. Um, and the big ears. I don't know whether you know that person. It's a famous German philosopher. He's called Richard David Precht, and he is a philosopher, yeah. And he was
Hmm.
and he has written a very famous book, Who Am I and How Many? I don't know whether you really heard about that one.
No, I didn't.
But I thought, okay, he is exactly the person, he's a philosopher. He's asking himself the question, who am I? And this is, I think, very typical for a Wörter person. Yeah? And maybe they are finding, okay, maybe I have a couple of various aspects inside of me. Um, I think when you're looking here at what we have um, on the chart, it's really that these are more introverted persons, that they are quiet, yeah, that they are very sensitive to the others. Yeah, they may do not show it to the outside, but there's a lot of things going inside. Um, they are really problem solvers of really complex problems, not easy ones. Yeah. And they are normally the serious people. So if you may have a fire person, he is a little bit more funny. And this one is really more a little bit a serious one taking, yeah. And this is where also the challenge maybe is coming from, with the fire person. The fire person is just making party, and this one is standing in the background and observing, yeah, the room with all the people who are there. But maybe they can be in a position to describe afterwards all of the people who have been on the party, what they have been doing or with whom they have been talking, because they are also getting a lot of information. Yeah. So, and what I'm facing really when in the coaching discussions, it's for sure that the water element, yeah, if we compare it to a journey, yeah, that the journey to ourselves is the most difficult. So most of us are a little bit more. Often it is that we see the outgoing people, yeah, but really getting inside to understand who we are, where do we want to go, what is my life purpose, what is really what I would like to do, where I can maybe help other people to find my own vision and mission, and really see, okay, what is it I'm about. This is a long life journey. And now we are getting to the point where we are saying, okay, we are getting into the water period, which is normally at the end of the life. We are talking about wise people. And then you're asking, okay, is it now all ending? When you have been maybe finding out who you are. But the good thing is that all of what you have been learning, which you have been integrating in your life, that this is something which is taken forward into the next decade, in the next life, into your into your into your next life, or how you want to position it, or even to give it to the next, how do you call it in English, to your succeeders.
Yes, I understand. Yes, the people that come after you, right?
Exactly, the people coming after you. Exactly.
When we don't know a word, we just give them meaning, right?
Uh, exactly. Yeah. So I think this is about how it is concluding, and from my perspective, you do not need really to have fear, because you know that something is growing and that something nice is already developing, and that is why I had the other picture, where the baby is within the mom, it's water around it. It's around it, but something is growing and already um, where we are developing a new life, over 9 months at least when we are looking at our human beings, So there is something inside us which is growing, which we are giving birth, and this is a constant process. Yeah, and this I think should give us the power to say, okay, nothing is here for. We cannot take anything for granted, and nothing, and we can take everything forward.
Well, um, as the water kind of finishes all the five elements, and what if we look at the process, because we looked at the content and we looked at the details for each, but if we are to look at these elements of the process, and I know you had something on how this can help the coaching and mentoring, you had like a slide, how can this be, yeah, how the five phases or the five elements strengthen the coaching and mentoring practice. Well, let's talk a little bit about this.
So, yeah, so we could look, or we can use the five phases, yeah, with the power, and to look into the process. So, if you say, okay, you have a new client, you need to get to know him, you need to find out what the problem is, you're starting communicating with him, then you're working on the problem, you're transforming the problem into something, into a good result, which is typically the Earth period. And then you're getting to a phase where you're reflecting and where this person is integrating maybe the new experiences or the new insights into the next phase, until into the next session, for example. You can take that kind of process even within a session, where you have the starting within a session, you're exploring what you would like to discuss, you're working on a topic, yeah, which is a transformation. And as said earlier in the beginning, so after, if you take, for example, the 60-minute sessions, normally you're starting at 40 minutes, 45 minutes to start the reflection. Okay, what has you been learning about yourself? What has been new? What do you want to try now? What could help you, yeah, to integrate that into your behavior? So what do you want to do different? So it also helps you, this kind of five phases flow, to run you through a session. Yeah. And if you're looking into the who, or into the person, or into the coachee or mentee itself, you get a good sign, what maybe is prevalent in terms of the energy in the person, what kind of person he is relating to. Is it more a wood person who is very courageous, yeah, adventurous, and really being outgoing? Or do you have a person who is more like what we have discussed today, an IT person is doing a lot of thinking, who is not able to express himself in a meeting? So you get an indication of what type maybe the person is in front of you, and that you can help with your experience, yeah, from a more system perspective, to help them really to get into the next phase. So you really need to help, for example, a winter person to express their ideas, to say, okay, what is now the outcome of all my thinking process, and how you can use your new results, taking that forward, and maybe talking about an idea. So often they have a problem to talk about their idea. So you need to help him to find that out, in order to get into the wood phase, where it's typical to grow something new. And so you can use the five phases, yeah, with their energy, with their typical rhythm in your coaching and mentoring practice.
Right. And I think what is different, because I'm thinking, of course, there's out there people watching, they're professionals, so you can have models like DISC or MBTI or other things, there's 4 quadrants and 6 quadrants and all of those things. But the
Yeah.
thing is, those are mental constructs, there are theories, there's somebody developed. And what I find with the 5 phases is that you can use your own knowledge and experience, and you can connect with nature and your own observation. So once you kind of understand what it is, there's so many things you can use from, and it's more relatable because the person in front of you, um, it will make sense. It is something that's within us. You don't need to go to a school. You don't necessarily. It's not cryptical, you know. In terms of language, I find it very accessible and very relatable. So that's why I love about the 5 elements, and it is this being in sync with nature, and it goes to us being human and being elements into a larger, is the microcosmos within us, which is actually a reflection of the macrocosmos. And these 5 elements and 5 stages allow us to connect and see this cycle and help us understand better, rather than teaching only through the brain. It can also help us connect with our emotions and with our body, with the physical, so for me, that's quite powerful.
Hmm. What you have said is, yeah, it can be used as a metaphor, um, and it has been proven by various scientists also that if you're using metaphors in the coaching process, yeah, where people can relate to their own behavior, yeah, if they have been maybe going through some of the experiences already, that the results of a coaching could be even much better,
Hmm.
You have mentioned all the other things, which are totally fine. I have been using them in the business environment as well. Yeah, the MBTI, the Belvin, whatever, the team roles. Sometimes you need to explain then a person first what the structure is about, But if we are talking really about nature, about a process, everybody has an own experience already. They know how they feel maybe in the springtime or maybe in the autumn time. They may have favorites, they're knowing exactly what they are doing. They know exactly how their energy is. So, and if you are listening to a person, or as we have just been doing before, how a person is getting into your coaching room, or how he is sitting on the chair, or yeah, where you are. You see so many things which you can already relate a little bit, where you're getting an indication. Yeah. And if you can use that as an analogy, yeah, you, what I have learned, that is at least my experience, I'm getting a much faster access to the person. I can understand much faster who that person is in front of me. I can see, okay, where he's maybe currently, in which process, in which system he is, and if I have this kind of system, yeah, I can ask different questions, so just to open him much easier.
Well, yeah, so I found it a very valuable journey. I came to this conversation from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I knew about the 5 elements because somehow I was drawn to the Chinese wisdom and this approach, and I'm practicing Qigong, and that is well, an embodiment, or it's one of the pillars in the traditional Chinese medicine. And by all means, I'm just I'm just with at the beginning with the learning, but I was happy to contribute, and it gave me, um somehow it breached something that was, maybe in a more spiritual realm. It gave me more the means to convert it to a professional space, because I'm also a psychologist, I'm also a coach. And how do you bring all of that in order to ultimately, um, amplify the impact for the other person, and also to be able to find the most accessible? Because isn't it funny, we go out there into the world, we study, we have certification, you do all of this, and then there's always a coming back to to using very simple terms, very simple concept. So you go out there into the world to figure out that what you started, what you had from the beginning,
Mm,
with that wisdom. And isn't that funny that you go to search for something that you already have? And I think that is the beauty of the five elements and the five phases. It is that you work with your own wisdom, which everyone has, and it is in us and all around us. And it's
mm,
nothing, there's no ownership of, all materials. You don't infringe anything. It is just a matter of being curious and observing patterns, and thinking, using the yin and yang, so the balance principle.
mm, exactly.
Now
Yeah.
I realized that we our pleasure of communicating on this topic brought us over a little bit over an hour, and I'm curious, what else do you want to maybe share with us, or what would be the elements to bring at the end?
So as mentioned, I'm doing a yearly master class. I'm just giving here a heads up, as you what we have discussed in terms of the four seasons or five seasons, as if you take it in that way, you have an energy flow. Okay, energy is going up and then it's flat and then it's going down until you do not. Yeah. You also, if you're looking from a Chinese perspective into the energy of the years, yeah, you have a 60-year cycle. So after 60 years, something is replicating. Um, on the 22nd of January, the water rabbit starts. Yeah, water the rabbit means it's we are now getting into the wood phase, into spring. So we have the combination of water and wood in the next year. Um, And what I am doing since 5 or 6 years, I'm providing, as we have been doing here a little bit, how do the elements water and wood relate to each other? Yeah, how do they impact each other? And what could we maybe see, expect, and how does this energy influence ourselves? So I'm doing a master class on that one. Unfortunately, it's in German, but I need to think if there are maybe interest to do that in English. But on the other hand, there are so many opportunities also available to look into that one. And if you know, or if the participants got a little bit of feeling what the elements are and are a little bit interested how you can interpret it, it's maybe a good opportunity, yeah, to listen in and to see, okay, how the people are interpreting that a little bit. Yeah. And if you want to stay in contact with me, having questions, if you're coming to Berlin, just come around and visit us in our clinic, or follow me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to engage, help out, yeah, give more explorations, more insights. So I need to say thank you to you, that I had the opportunity here to join you through the year to give a little bit of how you can see the world in a different way. I think there's no right or wrong because there's yin and yang. Both is there. Both is necessary. So thank you to you for organizing it, to setting it up, inviting me and all the teams here, and giving me the opportunity to share a little bit of that wisdom.
Well, and of course, I need to thank to you, because you brought the your knowledge and also your energy. And of course, we're being hosted by Coaching and Mentoring Festival, and this is a place where we come together to share from our passions, really, and our knowledge. And we hope that it resonates with people. There's absolutely no control. It's put out there into the universe. And, you know, if anyone listens or watches a little bit later, feel free to make comments or reach out to us, and we will see what 2023 brings. We will see if there will be inspiration to continue our maybe conversations on other topics. But for the moment, we ended the cycle, and thank you very much for this, for the knowledge, but also for our journey and our relationship. You've been a very inspired traveling partner, very knowledgeable, wonderful sense of humor. And thank you, Camelia, for staying with us until the end. And yes, let's all have a fantastic water rabbit year.
Exactly. Thank you very much.